Welcome back to Midlife Crisisses. I'm Tyson, one of the hosts. Thank you so much for liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing. All of that stuff helps us continue to do this podcast, and we would appreciate if you would continue to do that each and every episode. We love you guys so much. We want to keep doing this, and that is one of the ways to guarantee. Nothing in life is guaranteed.
Guarantee it. Yeah,
okay, that we will keep doing this. So smash that subscribe button, that like button, that follow button, whatever buttons are there, smash them all.
And we really want to hear from you guys too. We want to hear about your midlife crises. We want to know what kind of stuff you are going through so that we can talk about it and share our insights about trying to survive this bull as well. So
let's get into it.
My question today then is, what makes a good partner? How can a partner support you while you're going through changes, while you're going through midlife crisis kind of stuff?
Everybody's a little bit different. For me, I kind of like need a cheerleader. I need somebody who's like willing to support me, even in like some harebrained thing like that, and I don't think I'm crazy. So I feel like my idea.
The worst thing I feel like you can do in those situations, and maybe this is part of the answer, like here's what you don't do.
We're here. Midlife Crisisses podcast, back again. And
we're so here. We're
very
so
excited.
Here.
2 hats.
Never left.
1 not hat. Never left.
No hat today. I just got a haircut, and I'm kind of just letting it go for a little bit. I'm just letting it hang out. It was so busy. It had so much going on. It was a hat one day. The hair was longer. Now it's short. It's had some trauma. I'm just letting it hang. You can see it's kind of curling up.
Yeah. Do you like that?
You know what? My hair, I really wanted straight hair. This cool guy named Ryan Moffitt, who was a second baseman in high school. He had like the coolest hair. And my hair was always a little on the wavy side. Like I always had a cowlick.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I wish I had hair like him. And then my junior year of high school, for initiation for football, you get your head fully shaved. Like basically a no guard. I mean, they don't bick it, but they, take it all the way down. When it grew back within about 3 or 4 months, my hair was like ringlets.
Oh,
my entire hair was like Justin Timberlake 2001.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was so weird. It was just, and then now it's kind of like come back to like the waviness. If I'm in a really humid place, or like I'm at the beach or whatever, you see all the curls come back. Girls get the girls. So
girls get the girls. That is true. I always thought it was like curling, get your biceps big.
No. It's just the hair, bro.
It's the hair. I think hair is one of those things where it's like, it's always greener on the other side type of deal.
That's
where it's like,
a good point.
I have like curlyish hair, and growing up, I always wanted straight hair.
Yeah.
And now, like I've gone through the mullet phase and I've gone through the long hair phase. Having, especially I think as a guy, having at least wavy long hair. Straight long hair is a no-go for guys, but like wavy
especially
long hair or
older,
curly long,
you look like a monster.
Yes, exactly. so I'm happy with this. I wish I had more curl all over because it also gives it volume. As you get older, your hair's thinning a little bit. Those curls will pick that up.
That's a good point.
My theory for you, Bradley, is that if you shaved your head all the way down to no guard, it would come back curly again because you've trained it to sit and to pull and to be flattened out a little bit. But taking it all the way off and letting it regrow is the only way. Because mine, I've done that a couple times and it always stands up nicer, has more volume for quite a while after. So I actually, this morning before we hit record, I was thinking, I should do that. I'm going to Hawaii next week. I should do that before Hawaii gets some sun on my scalp.
Oh, dude. If you do, please post on social because I want to see the process. You should let one of your daughters do it.
I'll go to
a guard, so it'll be cool.
Well, what I'll probably do is not quite go that shallow, not guard shallow, not like no guard. I'll probably go to my hair lady and have her do it. Yeah. But you were also complimenting me on this rad hat.
Love that hat.
Hats are amazing.
I love a grandpa rope hat. That's my jam right now.
And this is corduroy, and this is like this thing like is a patch sewn on, a Phoenix patch. Incredible hat. I've gotten so many compliments.
Board of Tourism needs to be selling that merch.
Yeah, I've gotten so many compliments on this hat. It comes with this pin. I didn't put that pin on there. I'm not like, I need extra flare on this stuff. It just came like this, and it is not removable. It's not removable. It's like a thick bar through here. It's like, I don't know what it is. If it's like a lock mechanism where it's locked in.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what it is, because it's got like a little triangle thing, but I bet that it's barbed. I bet the pole that's holding it is barbed into that, so it's not retractable. God. I tried pulling it off. I was like, the only thing ruining this hat is this pin.
And it's right on the top.
Yeah. And William suggested sawing it off, and I have thought of that. I don't want to damage the fabric of the hat.
Yeah.
And I bought some jeans once. I don't know if they still do this because I'm old now, but it used to go in, buy a really nice pair of jeans.
William.
We'll ask William. We buy a really nice pair of jeans, and it comes with that ink blaster thing that if you go through it blows up ink, or like you can't pull it off.
Oh, yeah. At the store.
The big protective plastic brick at the store that when you check out, they like pull out this remover to like pop it off. I bought a pair of jeans, took them home. They did not remove that off of the jeans. I didn't want to take it back to the store to have them remove it. So I got some pliers, got a little hacksaw, and took them off myself. And it was a process. It was a full process. And I thought it was going to explode. No, it didn't. Didn't do any of that stuff. It just, and then I thought I should just wear it around with this on it. It's probably kind of cool. People probably think I'm a badass.
Yeah. Clearly robbed the store. Don't mess with Tyson. He's into thievery now.
Exactly. But I took it off, and it took a good half an hour of pliers bending back and forth, getting the saw in there, but not damaging the fabric at all, prying them both far enough that I could get the saw in there without it rubbing on the fabric. It was a whole thing. So I may be motivated enough to do that at some point, but
I feel like William's got like one of those, like, what is it? A butane torch, or like it's got some name that you can do it underwater and cutting big chains and metal and stuff.
Oh,
I feel like you got one of those.
An underwater welder type.
No. Yeah, exactly.
No, that's the most extreme thing a human can do is underwater welding. William is extreme. I'll give him that. But like, this is like crab fishermen in the northern sea, hardcore. This is like the guys, like when they go to work, they know they're dying at their job at some point. William's not quite that level.
I think you should just call a locksmith and then have him come over, and then he'll unlock it for you with his big cutters.
Like, I don't know how to explain this, sir.
I can prove ownership. Yeah. They're like, we need the receipt to show that you really did buy this hat before we take anything off of it.
Extract that. That's great.
Man, so
life can be hard sometimes. That's what I'm taking away from that.
True.
You think you got it all great. Everything else is perfect. But then there's this one thing.
I mean,
it's literally the story of life.
It really is. It really is.
You can't have it all.
Yeah. Is this our intro? Did we do the intro?
Let's do it.
Like, follow, subscribe before we get into our question here. We got Bradley. He's out in Atlanta. We got William. He's back in Denver. We've got me. I'm in Mesa, Arizona. I'm Tyson. And William, you have the question today, right? Is that right?
I've got a question for us. Yep.
Okay.
Let me just, we don't know. The way this works, if you guys are new to the show, is nobody knows the question except the person asking. But I'm just going to go ahead and go out on a limb because William's questions are always deep and like heartfelt. So I'm lobbing that out there. It could also be shallow and prove me wrong, but I think we're going to have a good conversation. I'm excited when William has questions. Let's see what you got.
I don't know if I've ever done any questions that aren't pretty deep. So,
oh no,
it's a fair.
Wait, how do I prepare myself for this?
No, it's not that intense.
Okay.
But so I'm a divorcee. I got divorced about a year ago. I'm starting to date a little bit.
Can I stop you there for a second real quick? When you introduce yourself as divorced to people, are there people that are like, congratulations? Or are there people that are like, oh, interesting? Or does like most people just try to like, what's the response? Because I feel like, I feel like if I knew you well enough, I would say congratulations as a joke and just kind of be like, is that funny?
Whoops, maybe not.
I think that everybody's got some sort of way that they relate to divorce, whether it's from their parents or their own relationships. So I think that it's all based on that. Like a lot of people will be like, oh, congratulations.
Fist bump.
Other people be like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But really, everybody wants to relate to it one way or the other because it impacts so many people.
Yeah.
So in my experience, most people want to, like, they have something that they want to say when they find out that you're divorced, whether that's about themselves or their childhood or whatever. But it's kind of like an intro for a lot of people to get something started, like discussion, because they all can relate to it.
Yeah, there's a commonality somewhere along some lines. Like even for me,
Exactly.
I don't necessarily have siblings. I have a sister-in-law that's divorced, but also like, people that are, I know people that are divorced. I know people that go through divorce. I know people whose parents are divorced. I know William, like all that stuff. So yeah, you're right.
So with that, my question today then is, it's kind of a two-part question. So one of them is like, what makes a good partner? Like what has been the most important things in your relationships? What makes you come alive as a person more through your partner? And then second to that is, how can a partner support you while you're going through changes, while you're going through midlife crisis kind of stuff? Like what can a partner do to help you without infringing on like the growth that you're looking for or the changes that you're looking to make? And what is a good partner? Because while I'm starting to date again, I'm looking at that again for the first time in a really long time and thinking about the kind of person that I would want to be with long term again and what makes them good for me.
I also imagine, William, you're coming at it with so much more clarity of who you are, because whenever you started dating your ex to now, I mean, you've grown as a person. You're clearly more mindful of these things, right? It's like after someone's run a marathon, like the second one, I haven't run a marathon, but my friends who run marathons are like, after you get one or two under your belt, you totally know like, oh, I can eat this in the morning. I can't do this. I have to sleep this much. Like you kind of figure that out. And I feel like you're probably approaching this in a much more thoughtful way than maybe just some random person who's getting into a relationship.
Yeah. And a much more thoughtful way than I have in the past.
Yeah.
Before I was looking at the relationship as far as I want a partner to have a family with, and that's pretty much it. Instead of like, I want a partner who can understand me, can help me, can be there for me. Like that wasn't really what I was looking for earlier. It was more like, okay, I'm getting to this age. I want to find somebody who wants to be with me and have a family. And that was pretty much as deep as it went. I mean, a little bit more than that, but I've got a lot more perspective now, and I'm looking at it so different from previous. And to be honest, I've had some before my last relationship, I've been in some other relationships that were pretty toxic, and I've ignored a lot of red flags. And I think that hopefully at this point, I'm ready to not do that. There's been more red flags than a pirate ship in some of my previous relationships. So
and why are you ignoring those?
That's a good question. Because I wasn't as thoughtful about what I was looking for.
Okay. That's fair.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
I think for me and Tyson, I'm curious, and I'll give my answer too. But Tyson, what was your dating history with Rachel? Like, how long did you know each other? How long have you been married? Because I think that'll back up some information as to like informing your answer.
We dated for a long time, like 7 or 8 years.
Wow.
But then we lived together before we got married and stuff. I didn't think that marriage was that important as far. I think she thought it was more important than I did. Like I would have been fine not getting married and just being together
as my partner
and
or
be
whatever.
Like, or just tell people we're married. Who gives a shit? Like whatever, like it's not the 1980s. You don't have to get married every time you meet somebody. So that's how I approached it. And she really wanted to get married, but she didn't know, like, she didn't really have a reason for why. But then when we had Bergen, we were like, we should get married, just be parents. And then there's insurance stuff and tax stuff and family stuff and inheritance stuff. And it's just like so much easier that way. And so we got married. We've been married 10 years. And so we've been together, since 2008. 2000, since 2008.
Cool.
This is when I met Rachel.
Is that 15?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, that's it. And I think for me, it was like, I know I'm like a pretty strong personality. So even just having someone who will tolerate my shit is like good sign, crucial. And then, who's someone who's like a cheerleader, like, and everybody's different. Like, what do you need from somebody?
Right. Because
like,
you may have certain traits already that you don't need to double up on, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Or like, what's your love language? What are the things that like draw you to a person? What are the things that pump you up and get you excited about that relationship and about being with that person? And everybody's a little bit different. For me, I kind of like need a cheerleader. I need somebody who's like willing to support me, even in like some harebrained thing like that, you know, and I don't think I'm crazy. So I feel like my idea.
Do we vote? Are we doing a vote right now?
No, there's not enough.
No vote. Okay.
Yeah, we need a larger pool of people to take this vote, because 3 people. But I need somebody there to support my ideas, or like let me try my things and let me like, you know, stick my neck out a little bit to do something kind of off the wall if I feel like it's going to be successful, or if I just want to try it. And so Rachel's really good at that stuff. And then I think like she needs different things from me than I need from her. And that's where also the balance comes in, you know, and I don't fully know everything she needs. I just try to guess, because I've never even, when I asked her, I was like, what do you need from me? It's more like in the moment of like, do the dishes.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I can do the dishes. But so like, I just like assume, which is, are we supposed to have conversations like that? Have you had a conversation like that with your wife, Bradley, where you're like, what is the things you need from me to make our relationship better? I've never asked that to Rachel.
I think it's a great question. Our background is we met in LA. And just to lead into what your question was, which I like too. We met in LA doing Groundlings, doing improv.
Okay.
We went on like a lunch. Well, clearly me.
Okay.
Yes. Man.
Okay.
Why I was initially drawn to her was, she had ash on her forehead, and I grew up in the church, so faith to me was really important. So Ash Wednesday, I was like, wait, is this person like? I didn't grow up Catholic. She did, but I at least knew what this was, and I was like, wait, this is pretty rare. Someone in LA who I think is cute and also has faith like me. I was like, that's interesting. We went on a lunch date, and then and I found out this later, she thought I was too nice, so she basically ghosted me.
Red flag.
Yeah, red flag. Too nice. The guy's too nice.
Yeah,
he's too nice. He must be nice. No, she was like, she actually has a book coming out, and part of it is about relationships and stuff. And she was like, her perspective of a good relationship was like the guy that she could fix. She needed a guy who was broken, who she could come into and change. And then once she fixed him, then she knew like, that's the fit, you know, he needs me basically.
I can relate to that. I kind of feel like I'm like that too, where I'm looking
you find a girl who needs to be fixed. Yeah. And so that clearly
it's not a good strategy.
Not a great, it's like buying a car that's broken and you're like, I'm looking for one that I can work on. And you're like, you're not going to fix it though.
If you need a NASCAR champion.
Yeah, exactly. Come on. And this is coming from someone who knows don't buy a broken car. But anyway, so a year and a half went by. We never saw each other again. It's LA. You likely never see each other again. And then she saw me walking into work. She'd gone through a broken engagement. She was engaged to a guy. Guy broke it off like 2 months before the wedding. He had been cheating and was like, I don't think I actually ever loved you. And it was a whole thing. So she was coming out of that. And then we bumped into each other a year and a half. Oh, sorry. Acting class. Then a year and a half later, we bumped into each other at a PF Chang's. She was like, oh my gosh, how are you? And I was like, I have no idea who this person is.
Wow.
And I had my
immediately in
Palm
the power position. You are.
Oh yeah. I had my Palm Pilot Trio, and I was scrolling through with the little stylus on the side. I was like scrolling through the names of like, how do I know this girl? She's so excited to see me. I have no idea who she is. Then I figured it out. And then another year and a half went by. We didn't see each other again. So it was like 3 years basically from our first date.
Wow.
And then
seeing
she saw me. Yeah, going into, I had parked my car in this neighborhood at the Grove. I was working at a restaurant called The Farm, and walked in, and she's like, oh my gosh, that's that guy, Bradley. I bet he's married with a bunch of kids by now. I wasn't.
Yet.
And so anyway, then we kind of reconnected that way. started just hanging out, and then it was like no rush, right? You're coming out of this broken relationship. I'd kind of come out of like dating my best friend, and it just didn't work out. It wasn't a bad breakup. It was just like, we're not right for each other, and that sucks, but better to know it now. So anyway, all that to say, it took all of that. And then we've now been married 13 years. It'll be 14 coming up. And we were engaged for a year, dated for about a year. So it's kind of like average numbers in that way. But for us, we got married. I was 31. She was 30. We had both been through therapy. We were both currently in it. We had premarital counseling and stuff like that as well. So there were moments of me asking her, like, what do you need in these situations, right? So some of that was like, because it was coming out of this informed moment. Some of it was just me being older and wiser and not like getting married at 21, like 80% of my friends did, like out of college. I went to like 16 weddings. And so some of that has been a proactive, like, okay, so I know that pissed you off. So the next time that I, would like you to help with something, how can I bring that up? Or how can I say that so it doesn't piss you off, But some of it too is just like, you kind of, it hasn't been so directly asked. Like, I actually like that question, Tyson, but also just like anything else, like in your job, you figure out how it works and how it doesn't, kind of by trial and error. So
right.
Sometimes it's a little bit more like that too.
I think you probably should approach with a question like that, or maybe at some point, but I never have. I just figured it out, and it's just like, why not be more direct? It is weird, but and then I really do think, like, you also asked about like when you're going through like crises or midlife stuff or having like some downer days and stuff. I just need someone to let me figure it out. Like, just let me spend 2 days on the couch pouting and watching TV and scrolling my phone and not doing anything. And then I'll rebound and I'll come back and I'll approach whatever thing was bugging me, and everything is fine. But I need hands off.
Hands off?
Yep.
So not like, you don't want somebody to hear you or give you advice, like neither of those. It's more just...
No, it's more just like, like,
let me figure this out.
There's been moments where she's been like, okay, that sucks. What do you want? I was like, I just want to sit here for like a day or two, and then I'll be good. And she's like, okay. So, and there's been times where she's like, stop, do something. You just be in a, I was like, this is the only thing that makes me feel like I'm like working through it somehow for some reason. It depends on the severity of whatever's going on. But like, that's probably at its worst, is me just being like, I'm still here as a dad. I'll turn off whatever thing is bugging me in the moments where I'm with my kids. But when I'm with you and things are bugging me, I just want to sit on the couch. You go do your things. I'm just going to sit here and just like recenter eventually. And it doesn't take more than a couple days maximum.
Does she ever think it's about her though, while you're feeling like that?
No, I don't know, because that would probably be different. I would probably purposely avoid her if that were. So that's just like a different thing.
What can I do?
Know what it's about.
You could stop being mean and stupid. That's the first thing you could do.
No, I mean, usually it will be like either like over TV stuff where I'm getting like major FOMO, or I feel like somebody somewhere has wronged me higher up on the entertainment ladder, or a partnership ended with someone I had a good relationship with, professional wise, corporate wise, like a brand.
Like a brand or a sponsor.
Yeah. And so those are the times where I'm just like, I just need to veg out for a little while, and then I will figure out. With the reality TV stuff and all of that stuff, it just literally takes like even only a couple hours where I'm like, oh yeah, I have major FOMO because the cast got announced and there's people I'm way better than that are on this thing that I'm not, but also they got to deal with all the bullshit and I don't. Yeah. So that's fine.
I remember we were talking about that a couple episodes ago about competition. And how, it's easy to compare yourself. It's easy to get into that rut, and it can really just sideswipe you too. I think one thing for us that I've found really important in our relationship, and something that if I were back in the dating pool, I would look for, I think, is willingness to talk, willingness 100%. To, ultimately you want to be on the same page, but that page can be big, right? Like it's kind of like the idea of like being on a river. You're going the same direction, but it may not be the exact same way, right? Like the way she handles, a crisis or depression or sadness is different than the way I do. And that's okay, but I don't want to ignore it. Right. You have to, hit my mic. It's one of the things that's so valuable for me is when she comes to me and she's like, I just want you to know I'm in a really bad mood and it has nothing to do with you. I'm just feeling some type of way. And I'm like, awesome. You communicated that to me. That saves us a lot of strife right there off the top. I'm going to give you space. If there's anything else you need from me, text me. I'm going to go work at a coffee shop, And she understands that I'm doing that from a standpoint of, this is how I'm going to love you, is to walk away. If that were different, but that just was trial and error too, right? At the beginning of our relationship, she's like, I'm having a bad day. I'm like, let me come hug you. And she's like, I don't even want to be touched.
Yeah,
she's
like stop. Yeah.
You don't even touch
You're annoying. You're annoying me right now.
Yeah. And then I have to not take that as an affront to who I am, because I'm like, well, I want to do that. So you're not letting me be me right now. Right. So I think some of that's just general maturity. It's like, and some of it is like, you have to be willing to be wrong and you have to be open to like compromise. Right. And I know all these are like the cheesy things people say at weddings too, but like some of it is really true. Because there's certainly, she and I aren't 100% aligned on everything, but even Chris Rock has a whole stand-up bit where he's like, if you're with someone, they got to be about what you're about. He's like, you're into church, they got to be into church. You're into work. If you're into crack, they got to be into crack, and it's like those, and I was like, that's pretty accurate, right? Yeah. You got to have some of those things. And I think also if I got back in the dating pool, the things I value now are very different than when I was, 20 something looking, I was basically like looking for a hot girl, It's like, and now I find there's so many more aspects to a person that I'm more interested in, in my midlife than I was at that point. So those would be different too. And those are variables too, I think. Yeah,
I think the willingness to communicate is just like the most important thing. And especially because I have that kind of nature where I'm trying to take care of people and make them, we're talking about when somebody's broken, trying to get somebody who's broken and fixing them. Because I'm like that generally, I always think that in the past, I've always thought that it was about me if my partner was upset. So if they're not willing to communicate and really tell like what's happening, then I always assume that it's about me. And then that just makes everything worse. And it kind of spirals because, they're bummed out about something and it has nothing to do with me. But because I see that they're bummed out and I want to help them and fix them and not really communicating what's going on, then I go in more instead of giving them that space that they need because I think that it's about me instead of them.
Yeah. And then it becomes a personal attack on you as you're like, you're not telling me and you're getting more annoyed the more I'm trying to help you. So it must be me. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's definitely tricky. And that is a read that I think is probably happened to most people in relationships, if not everybody.
Yeah.
So, that's interesting.
So Bradley, how do you think a partner should support somebody when they're going through not really just like a bad day or something, but like a real like midlife crisis kind of thing where they're switching up all kinds of stuff? Your partner might not be into the new things that you're trying to get into. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you say this. There was a Instagram person who Kirsten knew, and all of a sudden we like knew her on social, and all of a sudden we basically witnessed like a mental breakdown, and she just like spun off, and all of a sudden was like not around her husband anymore, not around her kids, and she's doing all these crazy posts, and it was like crazy to see, and we were like, what? Like she was truly going through a crisis. Like that was more than just like, I want to buy a Porsche. That was like a mental breakdown. That's obviously a little bit different. A lot bit different actually. But in that situation, the husband was like, I can't do this. Like I can't be around that person. And they got separated. And I think she's coming back around now. I don't necessarily know if that's the right answer or not, but it was for them. I think for us, I think Tyson, we're going to keep talking. Tyson's stepping out for a second. Cool jacket back there. I want that jacket. I think for us, going through those types of things, like the biggest thing for us is to know that you're not going anywhere, like, and a lot of that is, it's the stuff that, like, we'll tell our kids sometimes, like, I love you so much, but I do not like this behavior, kind of idea. And so in the same way, like, what's going on? Like, what's really going on? And I think it could take time for that question to come up, or that the real answer for that to come up. And maybe the person's not ready for it if they're really going through a crisis, right? Which is like, what's going on? Or, maybe there's a nicer way to say it, or like, how can I help you right now? Or I don't know. I mean, I think that a big part of that is just like, almost like what Tyson has gone through, like with his wife. It's like, I'm not going anywhere. I just need you to leave me here for a little bit. Like, this is what I need. I'm still going to be here. I'm still going to be dad. Don't worry about that stuff. Just like, you take care of you. I think going through a crisis, something big of like, what's going on. I think it's simply like, you have to call it out. You have to ask about it. You have to communicate that. You can't just be like, the worst thing I feel like you can do in those situations, and maybe this is part of the answer, like, here's what you don't do. You don't go to your girl group or guy group and start venting about what's going on without having any kind of conversation with that person. Like, oh, my husband's being crazy right now. He's doing this and this. Well, what did he say about that? Well, I haven't talked to him about it, because that's going to escalate your processing, but you're not bringing he or she along. So they're still here, and you've processed it with your friends, and you're way up here, and now this is not happening. So I feel like in those situations, the worst you can do is just leave it alone. I think maybe you have to be careful with the way you approach it. What's going on? Or, hey, I've noticed you've been acting a little bit different. Is there anything going on? And for the most part, I mean, speaking for myself, I'm so unaware. I rarely take stock of myself. I rarely pay attention to what's going on with me. So sometimes my wife says stuff like, she'll be like, you seem like maybe you're a little frustrated. Maybe you want to go for a walk? And I'm like, I'm not frustrated. I'm clearly frustrated. I didn't think about that. But now that you say it, yes, I'm frustrated. I don't know why. And yes, I do need to go for a walk, But that's also years of knowing she's got my best interest. She's not pissed at me. She's like, I want this team to win. We're on the same team. I saw an Instagram post recently where somebody was like, they're about to go on a big trip, and the husband and wife just did like a baseball, like, same team, good game kind of thing. Like, remember, we're on the same team, And it was this unifying moment. It's like, oh yeah, we're going the same direction. So, long answer to your short question, but that's kind of what I would say.
Yeah, I do like actually that you, because Rachel will do that sometimes, where she's like, you haven't played pickleball for like 2 weeks. You haven't gotten out. You haven't done anything. You just figure out a thing and go do it.
Yeah.
But to me, and even though I do need that, sometimes I take that as an attack, where I'm just like, oh, so you're calling me a dick.
What are you trying to say?
Yeah, you're saying I've been being a dick for the last like 3 or 4 days. Like,
you ready to go? You want to go?
Yeah. And I'm like, and I also can't just schedule a pickleball game like last minute. There's not 3 guys that I can just be like, hey, we're playing. Like, that's hard to do too. So I was just like, so then I'm like, I can't even do that if I wanted to. You don't even understand pickleball. So
that's a great shirt, by the way. You don't even understand pickleball.
Yeah, that is a good shirt, actually. We should sell that as merch. So, but she's totally right. And I know she's right even in that moment. And it's like, so what can I do? So then I go for a long walk or do something like that, get outside. But yeah, I think communication honestly is key, but I think you have to know what you need in a partner.
Yeah.
And that's
you have to communicate that. You can't just be like, I need you. Okay, great. What do you need? You can't walk into a store and be like, I'm cold. And they're like, okay, do you want a jacket, a sweater, long sleeve, something else? You just need a scarf? You got to know what you're coming into.
Yeah. So you need to know that. But you need to know what you need from them, and then hopefully learn what they need from you. I mean, that's also paramount. That's their side of it. But it's not everybody knows what they need.
That's
and
what I was
it's not
say.
First date material. That's what's hard about this. It's
Definitely not. Yeah.
You got to jump into it. You got to get into it. And then it's almost like starting a business or something, right? Like, I feel like relationships, especially family, really is a business. And you just like start this thing and then you're like, it's not going anywhere. But like, you can't know that from the outset. I think that's what online dating is trying to do. It's like, what are your best, basically what's your resume? And then like, okay, I'll hire you to date me.
Yeah. Just ramp that up.
Yeah. So maybe it's better to approach it from not from what do I need? Like, what am I looking for in a partner? It's more, what do I need myself to feel supported in a relationship? And then identifying those things clearly, and then like going out and dating and seeing if the people that you date might be able to match those things that you know that you definitely need from a partner.
Right.
Instead of looking externally for like what they're like and what they value.
Know thyself, right? Like that's like one of the greatest things. When I was taking acting classes, that was one of the things that I thought was like the coolest was you had to figure out what material you resonated with, what scenes hit you, and then you got to figure out why, because then obviously you want to be able to communicate to your agent, like, I actually really love drama, I love comedy, I love scenes about, families, and you figure out what really like pinches you inside and what motivates you, what pisses you off, what do you like, and so you really get to know yourself. But I think that's such a great point, William. Good way to distill that down, because ultimately that's all you can control in those situations. Mm-hmm. And I think too, it's not just that for dating. If we've got people listening who've started a new job, or you're trying to become friends with the neighbors or whatever. It's
interpersonal,
100%. Yeah. You got to know who you are, and that changes. I'm different now in my midlife than I was at my quarter life.
Yeah.
And I think that's so valuable. You bring up a really good point.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's true. Did you get what you needed from this, William?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's like the best way to go about it, really, is what do you need to feel supportive and fulfilled from a partner? Not going about it like this is the person that I'm looking for based on whatever their background is.
Yeah.
It's really,
being a multi-billionaire won't hurt.
It won't hurt. That's a nice That's a nice tick on the resume.
Could hurt real bad.
Just get in for the prenup. Make sure you just get in for that.
Yeah, but I think it really, and honestly, it helped a lot, because it's more just starting from yourself, not the other person, and then working out towards finding somebody who can support you how you need to be supported.
Yeah. I also always tried to change myself to basically close the deal. I would always adjust myself to what I thought the person wanted.
Me too.
And so
I stopped doing that.
Well, thankfully I did too. And that's when I got married. Everything else before that failed because it was me basically playing a character. And then when, shit hits the fan, you're like, well, that's not actually me. You're like, what do you mean that's not you? That's what I've seen. That's what you've shown me this whole time,
Yeah, that's the advice I would say. Don't act in front of a potential new partner a way that you don't want to act for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Because we would go places and people would be like, oh, look at so-and-so doing the dishes after their in-laws family meal every time. And then they can never stop that. They always are expected to clean up after their in-laws. And I'm just like, I'll help once in a while. I don't mind helping. I don't mind clearing mine. I don't mind clearing other people's stuff, but I'm not going to be the one to spearhead every single cleanup every single time, because now that's part of who I am every time I go there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
And then with trying to find a partner who you can help, who you can save or something like that, that doesn't work, because then they might end up resenting you for trying to change them. Like, you need to find somebody who you can accept as they are, not trying to get them to change to what you like.
Right.
Because in the end, that'll backfire and they'll resent you for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not always easy to do, but it's like you have to be aware enough in the moment to be like, why am I acting this way? Like we'll be at dinner or something. Like this girl I dated before, Kirsten, and I remember being at this public event, and I was kind of being the loud, jokey guy, and I was like 8 feet away from a trash can, and I was like, water bottle, shot it. We were outside it was an art gallery, but we were outside and people were doing like graffiti and art. Like there was a DJ. It was definitely okay for that vibe. It wasn't like MoMA. And she was so embarrassed by it. She's like, what did you do? And I was like, oh gosh, I shouldn't have done that. And I was like, later on through therapy, I was realizing, no, I should have done that because that's who I am. Yeah. But to seal the deal, I shouldn't have done it. And so then I felt bad. Like I almost lost the job basically because I pissed off the person interviewing me, and that was when I started finally saying, this is me. In fact, even with Kirsten, she was like early on, she was like, I didn't really know what to do with you because you were like, I'll text you tomorrow. And then you texted me the next day. Like there was no chase. And there wasn't this like giant hole of a person that needed to be filled. And she's, so we were like, after a couple months, I could feel her pulling away a little. And I was like, I feel like you're pulling away. Like, what's up? And she's like, honestly, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm not used to guys treating me this way and like being nice and all this. And I was like, well, I'm going to keep being me. And if that doesn't work for you, then that's okay. And we can go our separate ways. And that was years of getting it wrong, basically. And then having a therapist point out, I think you're doing that. And me being like, I am doing that. And that was a very conscious moment of, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep dating you how I think I should date you. I'm not going to like play games and, oh yeah, she doesn't want me to text her for the next day. I got to wait a day to text her. Like, no, not going to happen. And so she told me in retrospect, that was a real turning point in our relationship. For me, it was just me saying something, but she was like, wow, this guy knows who he is and what he's about. And so that would be encouragement as well. Along those lines, that's an example of being who you are, instead of trying to close the deal with who you think like, well, you're not supposed to call after the first date. You're not supposed to like, whatever. You got to be you.
Yeah. That's if you want to win a relationship, but those are short term. Are you trying to win in the relationship or are you trying to create a relationship?
Build.
Yeah, build. If you're building a relationship, you got to take that approach. If you're just like, I'm just out here to get mine and then destroy lives.
Another shirt. I'm here to get mine and destroy lives. We're merging it up. Bill, let's get some shirts printed here.
I've been on a lot of Survivor seasons, so I can switch it back and forth. But yeah,
that was really helpful, honestly. So this is kind of what I have taken away from it. Know what you want, be yourself, and let them be themselves.
Perfect. I agree. Good luck, everybody out there who is looking for a partner. If you already have a partner, hopefully this has given you some insight to improve your partnership. And if not, at least you can hopefully laugh at some of the things we said. Or
I think, Tyson, you and I have a question to ask our wives, right? We got to figure out, are we doing it right? We got to at least ask.
I don't know if I should ask. I might have been doing it wrong.
It's kind of going okay. I don't know if I want to rock the boat.
Yeah, I don't know if I can take that right now. If she's like, you've been married 10 years and you've been doing it wrong the whole time. I'm like,
maybe not. That's a good point.
There's always the next 10 years.
That's right. Okay. Until next week, everybody, we are the Midlife Crisisses. Follow, like, share, comment, anything you can do to support. It's free to support us. We're free to listen to. That's a good exchange.
Peace.